Hi, my name is James Gurney. It turns out that dinosaurs weren't that different from our backyard birds. We can even think of them as backyard dinosaurs because a lot of them were covered with feathers and may have behaved a lot like the birds that surround us every day. I'm an illustrator and I want to take you along with me while I paint these 3 oil paintings reconstructing some dinosaurs according to the latest research. So we'll go to the museum, look at the fossils, and then come home and I'll show you how exactly I do color sketches to visualize some of the ideas that I read about in science. And then I'll show you how to build a 3-dimensional maquette or reference model that I can use for the angle and the lighting to help with the final painting. So come with me and we'll do these 3 paintings from start to finish. I start my journey at the Natural History Museum looking at fossils of Yutyrannus, a relative of Tyrannosaur, covered with feathers, and I wonder if maybe they took dust baths to keep themselves clean and to get rid of mites. I start with color sketches using watercolor and gouache to imagine how this dusty scene would have looked. Next up are a pair of Oviraptor fossils found together, and scientists think they might have been like a male and a female. And I think of the turkeys in my own backyard, the way the males display by putting their feathers out and looking impressive to scare off the other males and to attract the females. Finally, I want to show the Anchiornis, which had feathers from its front legs and its back legs, which probably allowed it to climb a tree and then glide down like a flying squirrel, maybe flapping just a little bit. For reference, I make a maquette using wire and paper. The paper has been Xeroxed with a drawing of the shape of the wings, and I use 2 pieces glued together over the wire and then bulk it out with some 2-part epoxy. So now I have that pose in 3 dimensions. Next up is the Yutyrannus, and I want to have him crouching down with his belly to the ground. I start with a wire armature to work out the skeleton. Here's the Oviraptor called Khaan McKennae. For both of these 2, I'm using polymer clay or Sculpey as a base, and then I'm using the 2-part Magic Sculpt as a top layer, which allows more detail. I can't really do feathers on this Yutyrannus, but at least I can get the basic forms. And I want to paint him with a neutral gray, which will make it photograph better. I use kind of a brownish color and go to black and white and red. Scientists are able to know with some certainty about the pattern and the color of the feathers based on tiny structures within the fossils. Even though this maquette is a fraction of the size of the actual creature, I can hold it up in position in a forest setting to get an idea of how it would look against the conifer trees that it had climbed up. And now I trace it down onto illustration board, and I use that photo that I took projected on top of the illustration board to get the exact position of all of the markings on that wing that I had sculpted in 3 dimensions. Now let's move on to the Khaan McKennae. I'm thinking now of the turkeys and their amazing behavior during the mating season. As I draw him, though, I work on the face and it just doesn't look right. It looks like a Dr. Seuss character or something. So I erase them many times until I get the face looking the way I want to. When I'm done, I spray them with workable fixative and then paint it with acrylic matte medium, and then I'm ready to lay in the oil color, first fairly transparently, and then here with the Yutyrannus, I'm using oil paint to try to simulate the pattern of light and shadow. I'm translating the textures to a more fuzzy-looking, feathered texture. And thinking about the backlighting, Now, I like the idea that there's dust being kicked up while it's having its dust bath. So once the layers below are dry, I can scrub on some lighter values. And then at the edges, I paint in a stand of palmetto plants. Now I'm ready to move on to the Khaan McKenna, and I take my maquette and photograph it. I'm interested mainly in the cast shadows and the basic light and shadow. Now I take that drawing, and once it's sealed, I can scrub in some light tones over the whole thing, and then deepen the values of the shadow using darker oil paint, developing the texture of the ground. These three in the background seem out of perspective. I don't think we'd even see them there, so I'll remove them, paint over them with a background tone. I want to get that feeling that you see in wildlife photos where you get those blobby dots are called bokeh, and I can get that same effect in oil paint. But the effect is a little too insistent, so once it's dry, I scumble over that with semi-transparent paint to reduce the effect of that bokeh using a synthetic flat. Now for the wing, I'm looking at a sun bittern for those dramatic patterns on the wing. If you were able to tip your wings forward, you would have these bright colors and patterns that would be even more impressive. And using the actual modern bird as a starting point, I developed some patterns that would be plausible for a wing texture. I'm also thinking of turkeys and the way their feathers kind of lift up and puff up. Amazing creatures. And I would think that dinosaurs would be able to lift up their feathers too. Their head might be more bare. Maybe they lift their wings up in other ways besides just for flight. Just to take short hops, perhaps. There's a lot of variety of feathers. On a creature like this Anchiornis, you have the flight feathers and you have the crest feathers on the head, which we know were bright colored red on this and some of the other related species. I want to show this other second Anchiornis climbing up the tree as if it's ready to jump off. There is some doubt whether they had strong enough flight muscles to have powered flight. But all in all, here are three examples of feathered dinosaurs that look an awful lot like our backyard birds.